Title: The Unbelievable Real-Life Story of BMW, From Dreams to the World Stage. Welcome to our English learning story. Today, you will listen to a true and unbelievable story, the rise of BMW, one of the most famous car companies in the world. This story is told in clear and slow English. It is designed to help you improve your listening, your vocabulary, and your comprehension in a natural way. So, relax, listen carefully, and enjoy the journey through history, innovation, and human emotion. In the late 1800s, the world was changing quickly. Electricity was becoming more common. Railways were spreading across countries. People were dreaming about flying in the sky, just like birds. Germany, a country in the heart of Europe, was full of creative minds. Engineers, scientists, and inventors worked day and night to create new machines. Among them was a young man named Karl Rapp. He loved engines. He believed engines could change the world. Karl Rapp started a small workshop in Munich, Germany, in 1913. His company was called Rapp Motorenwerk. At first, it was not a big factory. It was just a small place where a few men worked with their hands, tools, and ideas. But Karl had one dream: to make engines that were powerful, reliable, and modern. At that time, airplanes were new. They were dangerous and often crashed. But countries were already imagining the future of air travel. Germany wanted strong airplane engines, and Karl Rapp wanted to provide them. Still, Rapp Motorenwerk had problems. The engines often failed, they were too weak. Customers were not satisfied. The company struggled. But this was only the beginning of a long journey. Meanwhile, another man named Gustav Otto was also working in Munich. He was the son of Nikolaus Otto, the inventor of the four-stroke engine. Gustav grew up surrounded by machines and inventions. He loved aviation. He built his own airplanes and started a company called Gustav Otto Flugmaschinenfabrik. In those days, small companies were born and disappeared quickly. Many inventors had ideas, but only a few survived. The First World War, which began in 1914, changed everything. Germany needed airplanes. It needed engines. Suddenly, small workshops like Rapp's and Otto's became important. The government gave money and orders to build more engines and planes. Karl Rapp's company began making aircraft engines for the German military. Gustav Otto's company built airplanes. Both men worked hard. Factories grew. Workers came in. The sound of machines filled the air. But success was not easy. Competition was high. Pressure was strong. Mistakes were costly. In 1916, Karl Rapp decided to leave his company. The business was reorganized and given a new name. Bayerische Flugzeugwerke AG, the Bavarian Aircraft Works. This was the seat of what would later become BMW. The company did not stop with Rapp's exit. Instead, it became stronger. Engineers worked on better airplane engines. One of the first successful engines was the BMW 3A, which appeared in 1917. It was powerful, reliable, and efficient. Pilots loved it. During the war, it gave German planes an advantage in the sky. And in 1917, the company's new identity was born. The name BMW appeared for the first time. It stood for Bayerische Motorenwerke, the Bavarian Motor Works. With a new name came a new logo. The famous BMW roundel, a circle divided into blue and white quarters, was created. Many people believed it represented a spinning airplane propeller against the blue sky. In reality, it reflected the blue and white colors of the Bavarian flag. But the myth of the spinning propeller stayed alive, and it made the brand unforgettable. At this moment, BMW was no longer just a small workshop. It was a real company with a clear identity. It had a symbol, a name, and a goal: to build engines that could lead the future of transportation. However, history had other plans. The First World War ended in 1918. Germany lost. The Treaty of Versailles, signed in 1919, placed heavy restrictions on Germany. One of the rules was that German companies could no longer build aircraft or aircraft engines. For BMW, this was a disaster. The company had just become famous for its airplane engines. Now, suddenly, it was not allowed to build them anymore. The dream seemed broken. Workers lost their jobs. Machines became silent. The future looked dark. But BMW did not give up. Instead, it asked, "What else can we do?" And that question opened the door to a new chapter in its unbelievable story. The year was 1919. The war was over. Cities in Germany were quiet but broken. People were poor. Factories were empty. Soldiers returned home, tired and hopeless. The country had lost, and the rules of the Treaty of Versailles made life difficult. For BMW, the challenge was very hard. They had built their name with airplane engines. But now, airplanes were forbidden. The government said, "No more airplanes. No more engines for war." So what could BMW do? The engineers looked around the factory. There were machines, tools, and workers with talent. But there were no customers for airplane engines. BMW had two choices: close the company or find a new product. They chose to survive. At first, BMW began making farm equipment. They built small machines to help farmers work in the fields. Then they made industrial engines for factories. Later, they even produced kitchen items, like pots and pans. It was strange to see a company that once built airplane engines now making cooking utensils. But survival required creativity. One of the smartest decisions came in 1923. BMW decided to design a motorcycle. Germany needed affordable transportation. Cars were still too expensive for many families. Trains could not go everywhere. But motorcycles were cheaper, smaller, and easier to use. BMW's first motorcycle was called the R32. It had a simple but powerful engine. The engine was placed horizontally, which made the bike stable and strong. People immediately noticed its quality. The R32 could travel long distances without breaking down. It was fast but reliable. This motorcycle saved BMW. It gave the company a new identity. No longer only an airplane engine maker, BMW was now a motorcycle company. The R32 became famous across Europe. Riders loved its speed, its smooth design, and its unique sound. But the dream of building cars was still in the air. During the 1920s, cars were becoming more popular. Henry Ford in America was already making cars on assembly lines, producing them faster and cheaper. In Germany, companies like Mercedes and Opel were also growing. BMW did not want to be left behind. So, in 1928, BMW made a bold decision: they would enter the automobile industry. That year, BMW bought a small car company called Dixie, located in Eisenach, Germany. Dixie already had a license to produce a car model from the British company Austin. The car was called the Austin 7, but in Germany, it became the BMW Dixie 315. The BMW Dixie was small, simple, and affordable. It was not a luxury car. It was made for everyday people who wanted to move around the city or the countryside. With this little car, BMW officially became an automobile manufacturer. At first, some people laughed. They said, BMW is only copying the British Austin. It is not a real BMW. But slowly, things changed. The company improved the design. They made the car stronger and more reliable. Step by step, the Dixie gave BMW the experience it needed in the car business. The 1930s brought new opportunities. Germany was recovering from its economic problems. People wanted faster cars, stronger motorcycles, and modern machines. BMW engineers worked day and night. They designed engines that were powerful and smooth. They built cars that looked stylish and elegant. By 1933, BMW released its first real in-house car, the BMW 303. This car was very special for two reasons. First, it introduced the straight-six engine, a type of engine that became one of BMW's trademarks for many years. The engine was smooth, strong, and balanced. Drivers loved the feeling of control it gave. Second, the BMW 303 introduced the kidney grille at the front of the car. Two oval-shaped openings stood side by side, like two kidneys. This design became BMW's signature look. Even today, modern BMW cars still have the kidney grille. The company was finally building its own identity. BMW was no longer copying. It was leading. In the mid-1930s, BMW expanded further. They made sporty roadsters, elegant sedans, and even luxury cars. Models like the BMW 328 Roadster won races and became famous for their beauty. The 328 was light, fast, and perfectly engineered. People began to see BMW not only as a car company but as a symbol of performance and precision. Motorcycles also grew popular. BMW bikes broke records on racing tracks. Riders traveled across countries with them. The company's reputation for quality was spreading quickly. But history was about to interrupt again. By the late 1930s, Germany was preparing for another war. Factories were asked to produce weapons, engines, and military vehicles. BMW once again became part of a conflict it had not chosen. The company built airplane engines again, this time for the German Air Force. Some of these engines, like the BMW 801, became very advanced. BMW even worked on jet engines, a new technology that would later change aviation forever. For the second time, BMW's future was tied to war. And once again, that would bring both growth and destruction. At the end of the 1930s, BMW seemed strong. They had cars, motorcycles, and airplane engines. Their factories were busy, their designs admired. But the shadow of war was growing larger every day. No one knew that soon, bombs would fall on their factories. Workers would be lost. The name BMW would be connected to both innovation and tragedy. Still, in these years between wars, BMW had shown something important, the spirit of survival. From airplane engines to kitchen pans, from farm machines to motorcycles, from copying small cars to designing elegant roadsters, BMW had proved that it could adapt, transform, and grow. The question was, could it survive what was coming next? The year was 1939. In Europe, the winds of war were blowing again. Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Party were leading Germany into a dangerous future. The Second World War was beginning. For BMW, this was both an opportunity and a curse. The government wanted factories to produce machines for war. Companies like BMW were ordered to make airplanes, engines, and military vehicles. Refusing was not possible. The entire nation was preparing for battle. At first, the war brought money and work. BMW's factories in Munich, Eisenach, and other cities were busy day and night. Engineers focused on building powerful engines. Workers assembled machines without rest. One of the most famous engines of that time was the BMW 801, a 14-cylinder radial engine. It was used in the German Focke-Wulf FW-190 fighter plane. Pilots respected this engine because it was strong, reliable, and gave great performance in the sky. BMW was also working on something new and revolutionary, jet engines. In the early 1940s, jet technology was still young. Most airplanes in the world still used propellers. But BMW engineers developed the BMW 003 turbojet engine. It was one of the first jet engines ever built. This showed how advanced BMW's technology had become. But behind the shining image of progress, there was a dark reality. Germany's war industry depended on forced labor. Many workers in BMW factories were not free men and women. They were prisoners, foreign workers, and people taken from concentration camps. These workers suffered terrible conditions. They worked long hours, often without enough food, in dangerous environments. This part of BMW's history is painful. The company, like many others during the war, was connected to human suffering. Later, BMW itself admitted this truth and expressed regret. But during the 1940s, the focus was only on producing for the war. The war was long, and by 1943, things began to change. The Allied forces, Britain, the United States, and others, started bombing German cities and factories. BMW's factories were not safe. In Munich, bombs fell on the main BMW plant. Buildings were destroyed. Machines were smashed. Workers were killed. The same happened in Eisenach. Years of hard work were wiped away in minutes. By 1944, BMW was struggling to survive. Production slowed. Supplies were missing. The war that once gave BMW money was now destroying it. In 1945, the war finally ended. Germany was defeated once more. The country was in ruins. Cities were broken. Families were separated. Millions had died. For BMW, the end of the war was almost the end of the company. Allied forces entered Germany and took control of factories. The BMW plant in Munich was almost completely destroyed. The Eisenach plant fell into the hands of Soviet forces, because it was in the part of Germany that later became East Germany. The Allies also made strict rules. German companies were not allowed to build airplanes or weapons anymore. For BMW, this was familiar. After the First World War, they had faced the same problem. But this time, the situation was even worse. BMW was banned from producing any motor vehicles until 1947. That meant no cars, no motorcycles, no engines. The company was silent. Workers had no jobs. Machines stood still. The brand that once built powerful engines and elegant roadsters now seemed to have no future. But BMW did not give up. In 1945 and 1946, the company survived by making simple items, pots, pans, bicycles, and household tools. Just like after the First World War, they had to start from zero. Imagine the feeling of the engineers. Before the war, they had worked on jet engines, one of the most advanced technologies of the time. And now, after the war, they were making kitchen pans to survive. It was humiliating, but it was necessary. The situation in Eisenach was even more complicated. Since that factory was in the Soviet-controlled zone, it continued to produce cars under the name BMW, but the company in Munich had no control over it. Later, these cars were renamed EMW, Eisenacher Motorenwerk. This caused confusion, but it also showed how divided Germany, and BMW, had become. By 1947, BMW was allowed to produce motorcycles again. This was the first step back toward real business. The company built the BMW R24, a simple motorcycle with a single-cylinder engine. It was not luxurious, but it was exactly what people needed in post-war Germany: affordable, reliable transportation. The R24 sold well. Slowly, money returned. Workers were hired again. The company was breathing after years of silence. But building cars again was more difficult. Factories were damaged. Resources were few. Competitors like Mercedes-Benz were already rebuilding faster. BMW was behind. By the early 1950s, BMW faced another crisis. They wanted to return to car manufacturing, but the risk was high. If they failed, the company could disappear forever. Still, the engineers believed in their dream. They began working on new designs. They wanted to show the world that BMW was not dead. The war had left scars on everyone: the workers, the managers, and the entire country. But from the ruins of war, a new BMW would slowly rise again. This time, the challenge was not only survival. The challenge was to create cars and motorcycles that could compete in a peaceful world. And once again, BMW's story would take a surprising turn. The Second World War had left BMW in pieces. The factories were destroyed, the workers were tired, and the company had almost no money. In Munich, the main plant was nothing more than broken walls and twisted steel. But Germany itself was trying to rebuild. People needed hope. They needed work, transportation, and a fresh start. BMW wanted to be part of that new beginning. In 1947, BMW took its first step back with the motorcycle R24. It was simple: 1 cylinder, 9 horsepower, and a top speed of 95 kilometers per hour. It was not powerful compared to pre-war models, but in those years, people didn't care. They just needed something to move around. The R24 sold well. It gave BMW money and, more importantly, confidence. By the early 1950s, BMW wanted to return to car production. That was a huge risk. Car factories required more money, more materials, and more workers than motorcycles. But BMW engineers dreamed of seeing their cars back on the streets. In 1951, BMW presented the BMW 501, their first post-war luxury car. The 501 was big, heavy, and elegant. It was nicknamed the Baroque Angel because of its round, artistic design. Inside, it had soft seats, a smooth ride, and the kind of comfort wealthy customers wanted. But there was a problem. Germany in the early 1950s was still recovering. Most people were poor. Few could afford such an expensive car. The BMW 501 was admired, but not many bought it. BMW needed more models, so they tried again. They built the BMW 502, with an even more powerful V8 engine. They built sports cars like the BMW 507, a roadster so beautiful that even Elvis Presley, the American rock star, owned one. The 507 became a legend for its design. And yet, there was still a big problem: money. BMW was spending too much and selling too little. Their luxury cars were too expensive for most people. Mercedes-Benz was stronger and more organized. Volkswagen had the Beetle, a cheap, reliable car for the masses. BMW was stuck in the middle, too small to compete with Mercedes, and too expensive to compete with Volkswagen. By the mid-1950s, BMW was in serious financial trouble. Losses grew every year. The company was almost bankrupt. Some investors even suggested that BMW should merge with Mercedes-Benz. There were rumors that BMW would disappear completely. But something unexpected saved them: a little bubble-shaped car called the Isetta. The Isetta was not originally a BMW design. It came from Italy, where a company called ISO had built it. BMW bought the license to produce it in Germany. They redesigned it with a small BMW motorcycle engine, and in 1955, the BMW Isetta was born. The Isetta was tiny. It had one door at the front, which opened like a refrigerator. It could fit two people inside, maybe with a bag or two. It looked funny, almost like a toy car, but it was cheap, efficient, and perfect for the time. Post-war Germany needed affordable cars. The Isetta gave people the freedom of a car without the high price. It could drive at 85 kilometers per hour, and it used very little fuel. Families loved it. Students loved it. Couples loved it. The Isetta became the people's car that BMW had never had before. Between 1955 and 1962, BMW sold more than 160,000 Isettas. It was not a luxury car. It was not fast. But it was a lifeline. The money from the Isetta kept BMW alive during the most dangerous years. Still, the company needed more. The Isetta was good, but BMW could not survive forever on a bubble car. They needed a real car for the middle class, something between a luxury model and a toy-sized Isetta. In the late 1950s, BMW introduced small sedans like the BMW 600 and the BMW 700. The BMW 700, especially, was important. It was a compact car, affordable but stylish, with a rear-mounted engine. The 700 sold well and gave BMW enough stability to think about the future. But in 1959, BMW faced its darkest moment. The company was deeply in debt. The banks wanted to shut it down or sell it. Mercedes-Benz was ready to take over. For many workers and engineers, it seemed like the end. Then something amazing happened. At the annual shareholder meeting in December 1959, BMW's future was being decided. Many people expected the company to accept Mercedes-Benz's offer. But small shareholders and BMW dealers stood up and fought back. They refused to sell. They argued that BMW still had a future. One of those who believed in BMW was a wealthy family, the Quants. Herbert Quant, the son of industrialist Gunther Quant, decided to invest heavily in BMW. He risked his own fortune to save the company. That decision changed everything. With new money from the Quant family and with support from loyal shareholders, BMW survived. They avoided a takeover and continued on their own path. The engineers, motivated by this rescue, worked harder than ever. They began developing a new line of cars that would transform BMW forever. The 1950s had been a decade of pain, near death, and survival through small cars. But the 1960s promised something new: growth, confidence, and the creation of the BMW identity we know today. From the ruins of war to the tiny Isetta, BMW had shown resilience. They had almost died, but thanks to courage, creativity, and support, they were ready to rise again. The world was about to see a new BMW, one that was sporty, elegant, and powerful. The year was 1960. BMW had just survived its darkest days. Thanks to the support of loyal shareholders, the courage of workers, and the investment of the Quant family, the company was still alive. But survival was not enough. BMW needed a clear direction. They could not rely forever on small cars like the Isetta or the 700. They also could not compete directly with Volkswagen at the low end, or with Mercedes-Benz in the high luxury market. The question was simple but powerful: what is BMW? In the early 1960s, the answer finally came. BMW decided to focus on sporty, elegant cars for the middle and upper middle class. Not too cheap, not too expensive. Cars that were fun to drive, stylish to look at, and reliable to own. This decision gave birth to the new E-Class, or New Class, a family of cars that changed BMW forever. The first New Class model was the BMW 1500, introduced in 1961 at the Frankfurt Motor Show. It was a four-door sedan with a modern, sharp design. It had clean lines, a spacious interior, and, most importantly, a brand-new four-cylinder engine that was both powerful and efficient. The 1500 was different from anything BMW had made before. It was practical enough for families, but sporty enough for enthusiasts. It was a car you could drive to work during the week and take on a spirited trip during the weekend. Customers loved it. Orders poured in. For the first time in decades, BMW had a car that was both a sales success and a symbol of its new identity. Soon, BMW expanded the New Class line. Models like the BMW 1600, 1800, and 2000 followed. Each one improved on the idea: sporty sedans that combined performance with everyday usability. The real breakthrough came with the BMW 2002, introduced in 1968. The 2002 was a two-door version of the New Class, compact but full of energy. It had a lively engine, sharp handling, and a simple but attractive design. Driving a 2002 was pure joy. It felt fast, responsive, and alive. The 2002 became a legend. It was popular in Europe, the United States, and beyond. It showed the world that BMW stood for something unique: the ultimate driving experience. In fact, many people say the 2002 created the idea of the sports sedan, a car that combines practicality with excitement. Without the 2002, there might never have been the later BMW 3 Series, which became one of the most successful car lines in history. But the 1960s were not only about cars. They were also about branding. BMW's advertising began to focus on driving pleasure. The slogan Freude am Fahren in German, joy of driving, became central. In English-speaking countries, this later became the famous phrase, the ultimate driving machine. This was more than marketing. It was the truth of what BMW was building. By the late 1960s, BMW's factories were busy again. The company was making profits. Workers were secure. The fear of bankruptcy was gone. The Quant family's risk had paid off. In the 1970s, BMW built on this success. They introduced new models that would shape the future. In 1972, BMW launched the 5 Series, a larger sedan designed for executives and professionals. It was elegant, powerful, and perfect for business people who still loved driving. In 1975, BMW introduced the 3 Series, the direct successor to the 2002. This car would become BMW's best-seller for decades, the symbol of sporty sedans all over the world. In 1977, BMW released the 7 Series, its luxury flagship. This car allowed BMW to compete with Mercedes in the high-end segment while keeping its focus on driving pleasure. Each of these series cars built on the new class idea: sporty, stylish, practical. Together, they created the backbone of BMW's future. Meanwhile, BMW's engineering continued to shine. The company developed smooth 6-cylinder engines, advanced suspension systems, and strong safety features. BMW cars were not only fast, they were also reliable and safe. Racing also became part of BMW's identity. The company's cars competed in touring car championships, hill climbs, and endurance races. Success on the track proved that BMW's road cars were truly built for performance. In 1972, BMW created a special division, BMW Motorsport GmbH. This division was focused on racing and high-performance cars. Out of it came legendary models like the BMW 3.0 CSL, a lightweight coupe that dominated racing in the 1970s. Fans called it the Batmobile because of its large rear wing and aerodynamic design. BMW Motorsport would later give birth to the famous M division, responsible for some of the fastest and most iconic BMWs ever made. By the end of the 1970s, BMW had completely transformed itself. In less than 20 years, it had gone from near bankruptcy to becoming one of the most respected car makers in the world. The key was identity. BMW had found its true place: sporty sedans and coupes that offered style, performance, and driving pleasure. They were not the cheapest cars, and not the most luxurious, but they had character. People who bought BMWs in the 1970s felt proud. They were buying more than a car, they were buying a symbol of success, independence, and passion for driving. It is no exaggeration to say that the new class saved BMW. Without it, the company might have disappeared. Instead, it entered the 1980s stronger than ever, ready to grow into a global icon. The ashes of war, the struggles of the 1950s, the tiny Isetta, all of that was now history. BMW had reinvented itself. The road ahead was full of opportunities, but also challenges. Competition was strong, the oil crisis was changing the car market, and new safety and environmental rules were arriving. But BMW had something powerful on its side: confidence. For the first time in its history, BMW knew exactly who it was. The 1980s arrived with energy, ambition, and change. Across the globe, economies were growing. Technology was advancing. People were looking for symbols of success, style, and modern living. For BMW, this was the perfect moment. The company had already built a strong foundation in the 1960s and 1970s with the new class, the 3 Series, the 5 Series, and the 7 Series. Now, it was time to take these cars beyond Europe and make BMW a global brand. In 1975, BMW introduced the first 3 Series, but in the 1980s, this model became a phenomenon. The second-generation 3 Series, known as the E30, arrived in 1982. It was compact, sporty, and beautifully balanced. The E30 became a dream car for young professionals. It was not just transportation, it was a statement. Driving a 3 Series said, "I have made it. I am successful. I enjoy life." The E30 was available in many forms: 2-door, 4-door, convertible, and even station wagon. But the most famous version was the BMW M3, launched in 1986. The M3 was created for racing, but it was also sold to the public. With its wide fenders, sharp handling, and high-revving engine, the E30 M3 became one of the most iconic sports cars of all time. On racetracks around the world, it won championships. On city streets, it won hearts. Even today, the E30 M3 is considered a legend. The success of the M3 was no accident. In the 1970s, BMW had created BMW Motorsport GmbH, a division focused on racing and high-performance vehicles. By the 1980s, this division, known simply as the M division, was shaping BMW's image. In 1978, BMW had already introduced the M1, a mid-engine supercar. Though only a few were made, the M1 showed that BMW could compete with Ferrari and Lamborghini in design and performance. But it was in the 1980s and 1990s that the M division truly exploded. The M5, launched in 1984, looked like an ordinary 5 Series sedan, but under the hood, it had the engine of a race car. It was the fastest sedan in the world at the time. The idea was revolutionary, a family car that could perform like a sports car. The M division gave BMW something unique, cars that were both practical and thrilling. You could drive them to work, take your family on a trip, or push them to the limit on a racetrack. The world had never seen anything like it. During the 1980s, BMW pushed hard into international markets, especially the United States. In America, the economy was booming. People wanted luxury cars that showed status but also gave excitement. Mercedes-Benz had long been popular, but BMW offered something different, not just comfort, but driving pleasure. The 3 Series, 5 Series, and 7 Series all found success in the US. BMW's advertising called their cars the ultimate driving machine. This slogan became famous worldwide, and it perfectly captured what BMW stood for. By the late 1980s, BMW was no longer just a European company. It was a global player. Its cars were sold in Asia, the Middle East, North America, and beyond. BMW also led with innovation. In the 1980s, they developed advanced safety systems, better suspension designs, and powerful new engines. They experimented with turbocharging, lightweight materials, and electronic controls. The 7 Series introduced luxury features like onboard computers, advanced climate control, and even phone systems. BMW was proving that technology and driving pleasure could live together in harmony. As the 1990s began, BMW was stronger than ever. The new generations of the 3 Series, E36, the 5 Series, E39, and the 7 Series, E38, set new standards in design and engineering. These cars were sleek, modern, and filled with technology, yet they still delivered the joy of driving. The E36 3 Series, launched in 1990, became another classic. It was more refined than the E30, with a smoother design and better comfort, but it was still sporty at heart. The M3 version of the E36 had a powerful 6-cylinder engine and became a hero for a new generation of enthusiasts. The E39 5 Series, released in 1995, was praised as one of the best sedans ever built. Journalists and drivers loved it for its balance, comfort, and performance. Many still consider it one of the finest BMWs of all time. The E38 7 Series also made waves. It appeared in Hollywood movies, such as James Bond's Tomorrow Never Dies, where a BMW 7 Series was remotely driven by the famous spy. This showed the car as not only luxurious but also high-tech and exciting. In the 1990s, BMW also explored new segments. In 1999, they introduced the BMW X5, their first sports activity vehicle, SAV. It was BMW's way of entering the SUV market, which was becoming very popular. Unlike traditional SUVs, the X5 focused on sporty handling and performance, not just off-road ability. At first, some people doubted it. Could BMW really build an SUV? But the X5 was a success. It became one of the company's most important models, opening the door for more X-Series vehicles in the future. By the late 1990s, BMW was everywhere. In America, driving a BMW was a symbol of success. In Europe, it was the car for professionals and enthusiasts. In Asia, it was a sign of luxury and prestige. BMW had become more than a car company. It was a global identity. People connected the brand with ambition, freedom, and joy. But success also brought challenges. Competition was growing. Mercedes-Benz, Audi, Lexus, and other companies were all fighting for the same customers. The luxury car market was becoming crowded. Still, BMW had an advantage: its reputation for making cars that were not just machines, but experiences. A BMW was not simply about going from one place to another. It was about the way you felt when you turned the wheel, pressed the accelerator, and heard the engine sing. As the 1990s ended, BMW looked back at its journey. From the small workshop of Karl Rapp in 1913, through 2 world wars, near bankruptcy in the 1950s, and rebirth in the 1960s, the company had come a long way. Now, at the edge of the new millennium, BMW stood tall as one of the world's greatest car makers. But the story was not over. The 2000s would bring new opportunities, new challenges, and new transformations. BMW would face questions about technology, sustainability, and the future of driving itself. Yet one thing was certain: the spirit of BMW, the love of driving, the passion for engineering, and the will to survive, would continue to guide the company into the 21st century. As the 21st century began, the world was changing quickly. Technology was moving faster than ever before. Globalization connected people and markets across continents. The internet was reshaping communication, business, and lifestyles. For BMW, this new era brought both opportunities and challenges. The company had built a reputation for luxury, performance, and innovation. But now, it had to adapt to new customer expectations, environmental concerns, and an uncertain future for the automobile itself. At the start of the 2000s, BMW launched new versions of its most famous models. The E46 3 Series, already popular since the late 1990s, continued to win fans worldwide. It was praised for its perfect mix of comfort and driving pleasure. But BMW also surprised the world with bold new designs. Under design chief Chris Bangle, cars like the E65 7 Series, 2001, introduced sharp lines, bold shapes, and a very modern look. Some people loved the new style, others disliked it. The debate was intense. But one thing was clear: BMW was not afraid to take risks. At the same time, the company kept pushing performance. The M3 E46, with its high-revving inline-6 engine, became a legend. The M5 E60, released in 2005, shocked the world with a V10 engine inspired by Formula One racing. It was one of the most powerful sedans ever made, and it showed that BMW was still the king of sporty luxury cars. The success of the BMW X5 in the late 1990s encouraged the company to expand its lineup of SUVs, or as BMW called them, sports activity vehicles, SAVs. In the 2000s, models like the X3, X6, and later the X1 joined the family. The X6 was especially unique. It combined the shape of a coupe with the size of an SUV. Some people called it strange, others called it brilliant. But once again, BMW proved it could create entirely new segments in the car market. SUVs became a major source of sales. Customers loved the higher driving position, the sense of safety, and the combination of practicality with BMW performance. By the 2010s, the X models were among BMW's best-selling cars. The 2000s also brought a growing awareness of climate change and pollution. Governments around the world started to demand cleaner, more efficient cars. For BMW, this was a big challenge. How could a company known for powerful engines adapt to a greener future? In 2011, BMW gave the world an answer: BMW i. This was a sub-brand dedicated to electric and hybrid cars. In 2013, BMW launched the i3, a fully electric city car. It had a futuristic design, lightweight carbon fiber body, and innovative interior made from recycled materials. Then came the i8, a plug-in hybrid sports car that looked like it came from the future. With butterfly doors and a dramatic shape, it showed that sustainability and excitement could go hand in hand. The BMW i division was not just about selling cars, it was about showing a vision of the future. It helped change the image of BMW from only a performance brand to also a leader in innovation and sustainability. To meet worldwide demand, BMW expanded its production network. Factories were built not only in Germany but also in the United States, China, South Africa, and other countries. This global strategy helped BMW stay competitive and closer to its customers. The U.S. factory in Spartanburg, South Carolina, became especially important. It produced many of the X models and eventually became BMW's largest plant worldwide. By the mid-2010s, BMW was selling more than 2 million cars every year. The brand had become a global powerhouse, competing closely with Mercedes-Benz and Audi for the top spot in luxury car sales. Cars were no longer just machines with engines. In the 2010s, digital technology transformed the driving experience. BMW introduced systems like iDrive, which allowed drivers to control navigation, entertainment, and settings with a central controller. Over time, iDrive became more advanced, with touchscreens, voice control, and internet connectivity. BMW cars could connect to smartphones, stream music, and even receive software updates. The company also began experimenting with autonomous driving technology. Prototypes showed cars that could park themselves, follow traffic automatically, and even drive without human input on highways. While fully self-driving BMWs are still in development, the company continues to invest heavily in this area. In the 2010s, a new competitor entered the luxury car world, Tesla. The American electric car company gained huge attention with its fast, high-tech electric vehicles. Suddenly, BMW faced a serious challenge. While the i3 and i8 were innovative, they were niche products. Tesla was selling electric sedans and SUVs that directly competed with BMW's main models. Customers began to ask, is BMW moving fast enough into the electric future? BMW responded by announcing a wave of new electric cars, such as the i4, a sporty electric sedan, the 9, a luxury electric SUV, and electric versions of the 3 Series and X3. By the 2020s, BMW committed to becoming a leader in electric mobility, with plans for dozens of new electric models by 2030. Today, BMW is focused on 3 big goals: electrification, digitalization, and sustainability. Electrification. The company is expanding its lineup of electric vehicles, aiming for millions of EVs on the road in the coming years. Digitalization. BMW is working on advanced software, connected services, and autonomous driving features to keep its cars at the cutting edge. Sustainability. BMW is committed to reducing emissions not only from its cars but also from its factories and supply chains. It is investing in renewable energy, recyclable materials, and greener production methods. The challenge is enormous, but BMW has faced big challenges before. From the collapse of the airplane industry after World War I, to near bankruptcy in the 1950s, to fierce competition in the 21st century, the company has always found a way to adapt and succeed. Today, BMW is more than just a car manufacturer. It is a global symbol of success, ambition, and the joy of driving. Its cars appear in movies, music videos, and art. Celebrities and business leaders drive BMWs, but so do millions of ordinary people who simply love the experience. BMW has become part of culture. The brand stands for passion, innovation, and resilience. From a small aircraft engine company in 1916, to a luxury car giant with millions of customers worldwide, BMW's story is one of courage, creativity, and survival. Has faced wars, financial collapse, and technological revolutions. Yet through it all, BMW has stayed true to its identity, a company built on driving pleasure, engineering excellence, and the belief that cars are more than machines, they are experiences. As the future unfolds, one thing is clear: whether powered by gasoline, electricity, or something yet to be invented, BMW will continue to inspire the world with the joy of driving. The journey is far from over. In fact, it may just be beginning. And that brings us to the end of the unbelievable real-life story of BMW. From a small aircraft engine maker to a global icon of luxury and innovation, BMW's journey shows us the power of resilience, creativity, and passion. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more inspiring journeys from the world's most famous brands. Until next time, keep learning, keep dreaming, and keep moving forward.